we realized quite quickly that to have a winery, you needed to grow grapes. And we cannot grow grapes in Saskatchewan. It just doesn't work. And so that kind of got kiboshed very quickly. We didn't even like wine. So why would you ever set up a winery?
Yeah.
It made no sense.
Mhm.
But a distillery is based on grain. And we knew grain. And we also knew that in Saskatchewan, we grow some of the best grain in the world. Why couldn't we grow the best grain and make the best whiskey out of it? Was the way we looked at it. And initially we tried to do it retail shelves, as in go to the liquor stores, get our product on the shelf. And it's really tough for people to understand your story and everything else when there's just a bottle on the shelf. So it's very, very difficult to pass on why your product costs 3 times what the next local product costs. And so we looked at that and said, you know what? Where do they really appreciate quality? Where do they appreciate the story? Where do they have an understanding of whiskey that we don't have to do all of the education about it? We sell now in the UK, we sell in Germany, we sell in China, we sell in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Those are the places for our product.
Barb, I want to, as I ask all of our guests as we wrap up our time together, this question, and it's, what has been your recipe to revenue? Welcome back to Recipe to Revenue. We are so excited today to have a wonderful guest from Canada. I think it's our first guest from Canada, Barb Stefanyshyn-Cote, and she is the the owner and founder of Blackfox Farm and Distillery. Barb's going to share with us all about what she's doing up in her farm up there. She has a part flower business, part distillery, and this is really exciting topics that we're going to get into related to the craftsmanship around having a distillery, the business that you've created up there, that's with the sustainability that you implement in the business, and just lots of great knowledge that's going to come through our episode today. So Barb, thank you for joining me.
Well, it is a real pleasure. And you started off saying that I might be the CEO, and I do hold that title, but I prefer actually CEE, which is Chief of Everything Else. So
yeah, I am sure lots of people can relate to that. Have gone down this road of starting their own venture, right? You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm the chief bottle washer," or things like that, right? But I haven't heard CEE, but that one definitely applies. Barb, tell me a little bit about how you got into the agricultural world, and where did it begin for you?
Well, I have to say, I was very lucky and blessed to grow up on the farm. My parents raised purebred cattle, so I'm a little fussy about the cattle I like. And then I happened to meet my husband in the College of Agriculture here at the University of Saskatchewan. And we went back farming. So farming's been in our blood. I believe we're like 5th generation farmers. So that was the easy part.
Yeah. So that kind of came with the territory, so to speak. So,
sure did.
And then, so tell us then how you went to the School of Ag, you studied it from educational background, but you also had it from a family background. And then take us through your career path. What happened next?
So here in Saskatchewan, it is when someone says, what does farming look like? Their first thoughts go to, we are large scale cash crop or grain farms. As in large scale, we're talking 10, 20, 30,000 acres is what would be typical. When my husband and I first started farming, we farmed together with his parents for a year and a half, and they said, that was fun, but we're done. And so what we did is we purchased the farm from them, And
Mm-hmm.
we grew that farm from 1,500 acres up to 5,000 acres. Then
Wow.
we came to a crossroads in our careers where
Mm-hmm.
it was we either needed to become larger into that 10, 20, 30,000, or we
Yeah.
needed to do something different. And we chose the do something different.
Yeah. So you were sitting down with your husband and saying, okay, we can continue going down this path, continue to scale this. And what were you growing or, what was your main crop at that point in time?
So at that time, we were growing wheat and barley, peas, oats, flax, canola,
Mm-hmm.
barley. I think I mentioned that, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we really
Yeah.
had about 6 different crops that we rotated through, and
Okay.
grain farming was really, really good to us.
Yeah.
You may not know it by looking at me, but I am one half of Canada's outstanding young farmers from a long time ago.
Yeah.
So we were recognized as young farmers. Both my husband
Amazing.
and I are Nuffield Scholars, which is a
Mm-hmm.
very prestigious agricultural organization that essentially what you do is you get to choose your topic in agriculture and go anywhere in the world to study it. And I
Oh, wow.
think it was because of that that we got to see many different agricultural operations around the world and
Mm-hmm.
realize that farming or agriculture wasn't just producing acres and tons of wheat and barley and canola.
Yeah. It's such a different world. I grew up in the suburbs of New York. And so my exposure to farming was, during the summertime out in Long Island, they grow potatoes, they grow corn. And then we would go like strawberry picking or apple picking, depending on the season. And then I spent, 14 years in New Mexico in the
Oh,
middle
wow.
of, it's called the Mesilla Valley,
Mm-hmm.
and the green chili capital of the world. So very different environment than I was then exposed to with a school of ag, New Mexico State University, and onions, and of course the peppers and so on. It's just so infiltrated into the community and culture there. So I have a new level of appreciation for it, having gone through these seasons of life here. So I can see
Well, you
but
ask
having
good agriculture questions. And so, yes, you have had some background in it, I can
yeah.
tell.
So I'm curious. So you were at that crossroads, and you're like, should we continue to scale or do something different? And so when you're thinking about this something different side of the equation, what were some of the things that you were considering?
Well, we realized that we wanted to do something closer to the customer.
Hmm.
When you're growing large volumes of cereal grains and oil seeds, the problem is that you harvest it, you put it in a truck, the truck goes to a train goes to a ship, and we never get to see the end customer. And we
Yeah.
really wanted to have that connection so that people could look us in the eye and say, this is really great what you're doing. Or, you should go back to the drawing board, So
Yeah.
we were ready for that. And what that meant for us though was that you had to be closer to customers. My
Hmm.
nearest small town village, I guess, was 500 people, and we were
Wow.
related to most of them. So
Oh.
it's not going to
Yeah.
make a really good
All
client.
right. Not unbiased. Yeah.
Yeah, not
Opinions we get.
unbiased, and the family discounts would kill you. And
Yeah.
so we did what is actually considered sacrilegious where we come from. We sold
Hmm.
the family farm. And
Hmm.
so we sold thousands of acres and we purchased 80 outside of Saskatoon, which is the largest center here in Saskatchewan, in my province. And it
Hmm.
is about 300,000 people. So that now my base is much
Okay.
bigger. And
Sure.
originally, what we thought we were going to do it was grow vegetables and have a winery. But we realized quite quickly that to have a winery, you needed to grow grapes. And we
Hmm.
cannot grow grapes in Saskatchewan. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got kiboshed very quickly. And
Hmm.
then, we also realized that, so we thought we would do a fruit winery. So we planted out acres of raspberries and a fruit that we grow here called haskap, sometimes called honeyberry. So we grew
Okay.
those out, realized quite quickly we knew nothing about fruit. We didn't even like wine. So why would you ever set up a winery?
Yeah.
It made no sense. But a distillery is based on grain, and we knew grain. And we also knew that in Saskatchewan, we grow some of the best grain in the world for bread and for pasta and for cookies. Why couldn't we grow the best grain and make the best whiskey out of it? Was the way we looked at it. And the distillery was what we started, and it has been the best decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I love that because it to me, I think back to being in grad school and thinking about, okay, we have this product. What's another use for it?
Yeah.
And really trying to examine what is the customer's interest, needs, and where do our expertise overlay. And so you really kind of did that whole exercise
Yeah.
and ended up coming up with a good product.
And
So you started a distillery.
yeah, but I think farmers in particular have this really bad attitude sometimes that I can grow it, you should buy it. And maybe that's not what people want to buy. And I guess that almost, it relates a lot to any kind of business. Just because you can produce it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean that there's a customer out there that wants it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And to a little bit of dismay to some people, they do put their heart, soul, and investment into it. But if there isn't a demand for it, then
Yeah.
it's not a business.
That's right. Yeah, and it may be
Yeah.
the most wonderful chocolate chip cookie that there is out there, but
Mhm.
there's 500 other chocolate chip cookies that people have access to, and unless you're going to really do something on top of that, it's going to be a tough sell. Like, it's not that you
Yeah.
don't make a good product, it's a tough sell, and just like you said, it's not a business.
Yeah. So you knew that your grain was some of the best in the world. And so what else did you have your sights on of what would differentiate you from the other whiskeys that are out there when you went down this path?
So it was an interesting revelation to us to find out that actually a lot of whiskey is all made in one location, and then all it is different brands. So it's the same place that makes, I don't even know the brands, but it's similar to, when you consider the Costco model, somebody's making that Kirkland brand for them. They are not
Right.
making it. And so it's all of these whiskeys that you see, and you think they're all different from somebody else, and they're all coming from the same location. And we really wanted to be able to connect the consumer right back to where this product was coming from, to understand the process and to meet the people behind it. And
Yeah.
we really felt that people should be able to trust where their beverages are coming from. And how we get trust is by knowing who we are. And that is
Yeah.
how we thought we could set ourselves apart. And then along with that came the sustainability and the terroir that we tapped into and everything else, that it all comes together to make this package that is really desired by the consumer.
Yeah, I love that. You kind of have a like three-legged stool set up with your story, the product, and the actual process that you've come up with. So, how did you go about learning to actually make the whiskey?
Well, that I have my chief distilling officer is my husband, and he and I have we've worked together for the last nearly 40 years, and I happened to marry a guy with a good palate. So he picked up on the distilling side quite quickly. He took some courses. Obviously, we've
Yeah,
had some trial and error. We have
sure.
had some disasters. I'm not going to say it's all going well,
Yeah,
but
right.
it is a learning process. But
Mhm.
distilling also, as opposed to winemaking, distilling is a lot more scientific. There's a lot
Mhm.
more levels that you can, parameters that you can fit within, that you're going to start making a decent product. And so that is why it was very important for us to learn the process right and take it from there.
Yeah. How long did that process take from you made the decision you were going to do this to you uh actually maybe your first bottle? Let's use that time frame.
So for us, the time frame would have been probably 3 to 4 years.
Mhm.
So it was a little bit longer because prior to that, we actually purchased the land and then we started building the building and then we brought in the equipment. And fun fact is that we had our still custom made for us in Germany. And when they
Oh,
shipped it out,
nice.
they actually shipped it in two different containers where,
Oh.
and one came directly to us and one went to Washington State and got lost for 6 weeks. Just,
Oh.
those are the things that you don't put into your business plan.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
you
yeah. Half
can't.
my machine is across the country.
Yeah, that wasn't what I intended. And so
Yeah.
those are the things that are more hiccups than you expect. We've
Sure.
had 29 permits approved before we could open.
Oh, wow.
Like those are the other things that to understand the regulations that you're going into. And I've seen too many products that the people make this great product and then they realize that in our like in Canada it's CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency. I
Mhm.
believe yours is the FDA. Come
FDA.
along and
Mhm.
say you didn't follow the rules, you can't sell this, and they've got a product ready and you're going, that should have been way back in your initial processes to make sure that you're following all the rules.
Mhm. Yeah, that in and of itself, unless you love reading fine print, it's difficult to make sure that
Yes.
you're checking all of those boxes. So, did you bring in other experts or people have kind of gone down this path to help you through this, or did you just really figure it out, yourself and your husband as you went along?
We did a lot of figuring on our own, but we're not afraid to reach out. And
Hmm.
we were, just to give some context, the fourth distillery to open in my province. The
Hmm.
first three, though, were more along the lines of bringing in bulk alcohol from somewhere else and rebottling it. We were the only
Okay.
ones that were starting right from scratch and taking it on. So it was a different process. So there wasn't anybody local that we could really discuss this with and talk to. But as I
Hmm.
said, we're not averse to reaching out. And now with connections through LinkedIn, through just everywhere, even using
Yeah.
AI to ask questions is unbelievable how much of an advantage it can give you. And reaching out to the experts, and maybe it's not even in your industry, maybe it's into an
Hmm.
industry that is similar, but not a
Hmm.
competitor, you'll find
Right.
people are much more willing to talk.
Yes, yeah, that right there is a great tip for those listening. Is if you're complimentary but not competitors, you can really share knowledge with each other, and people are absolutely willing
And it's
to
even not
give their
competitors
input.
in your country, in your region, or whatever.
Hmm.
If you are selling into this market and they are, thousands of miles away, it's much easier to have a candid discussion than if you're
Yeah,
next door.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, wonderful tip there. So, okay, so we have the operation side in terms of the distilling, and then your story. How did you start to incorporate that into the business and bring that as part of a piece of your success?
So we had heard different stories or different models. One of the things that always struck me was the Wendy's model. When they got rid of Dave, or when Dave was
Yeah.
no longer there, the brand really struggled. And so we
Hmm.
made a decision off the start to say, no, the founders are not going to be a part of this. We are just going to build it like that.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, for the business that we are building in
Hmm.
the luxury, you know, ultra premium products, that was a mistake because the people wanted to know about us. And what we
Hmm.
found is that whenever our marketing team would include us in the posts or on the Instagram reels or any of those kinds of things, we would get
Yeah.
much more engagement than if it
Hmm.
wasn't us. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it was just because we're the founders or if it's a people human side that
Mm-hmm.
did it. But
Yeah.
what we realized is that people wanted to see us. So
Mm-hmm.
just a silly thing is we do a lot of tours here at the farm. We bring
Mm-hmm.
people in and we love to show them around because we can make that connection. And we found that people really wanted John or I to do the tours.
Mm-hmm.
So that just isn't feasible when it comes to time and everything else. And it's not always the best use of our time.
Yeah.
So we created a founders tour versus a traditional tour,
Oh, very nice.
and we charge more.
Smart. Yeah, as you should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, I love that idea though, because, people do want to hear from the founders and that, you have some extra background and little stories that don't always get passed down to the rest of the
Right.
team,
Yeah. No matter
when
how
they're doing
well
tour stories.
your team is trained, they're still not you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But you make a good point of differentiation between ultra premium brands and, you know, in the case you mentioned Wendy's, a fast food chain.
Yeah.
Like, when is it important to have the founders involved and you know, people first versus product first? So I appreciate that distinction there, that in your category, that your story, the origin not only of, how you and your husband decided to start this, but the origin of the actual wheat. And
Hmm.
I love how, your family's been doing this for 5 generations. Like, that's like a generational knowledge that even like subconsciously has been passed down to you, and is in the bottles,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's part of your story.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And you are correct too to say it does matter by category. It really matters where you want to position yourself as to how that branding and how that marketing comes about.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, and so you mentioned opening up to do tours. At what point did you decide to do that? Was that an early on decision that you'd be, offered that level of transparency, or is that an economic decision? Like, oh, this is a good way to add, more revenue to the business.
A little bit of all of the above. What we found is if we could bring people to our location, we
Hmm.
could have the chance to tell a better story and have them really truly understand what we do and
Yeah,
why we do it differently. And that is really tough to convey when there is just a bottle on the shelf.
sure.
Like it's really, really tough. We did start doing tours very early on. And the
Hmm.
other part about it is that we felt tourism was a really good way to get the marketing out. You can
Yeah.
have word of mouth or you can spend a lot of money on ad campaigns and such. And we
Hmm.
felt that word of mouth was better for us. And we also, this is very selfish. We like to live
Hmm.
in a nice location. So we live here at the farm. We're 200 yards
Okay.
away from the distillery. And
Hmm.
I wanted a nice yard. And so
Yeah.
we expanded that yard and we've made it a location, but that is also where the flowers now come into play. Is we
Hmm.
grow acres of cut flowers that people can come out and pick their own. So we hand
Yeah.
them a bucket and a set of pruners and we send them out into the flowers and say, fill the bucket. That's your job.
Ah, I love that. And what's the best, for anyone listening that would like to take a trip there? What's the best season to come do that?
Definitely don't come in January through
Yeah,
April. It's
right.
not good. Um,
Okay.
the flowers are in their glory in from middle of June till the end of September. And
Okay.
then the distillery is open all year round, so we're here all the time. And we do some winter whiskey experiences, which are pretty incredible.
Oh,
I don't
fun.
know if you've ever tried whiskey that's been aged to -40.
I can't say I have. I'm gonna have to ask around to some of the whiskey aficionados in my life, but no, that sounds like a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna put on my calendar for the summertime visit. However, so
Good.
we can do the flower experience as
Sure.
well. Yes, it's quite cold up there in the winter, isn't
It,
it?
it is, but just think how you can brag to your friends that you survived that.
You survive. Exactly. Good point. Good point. So you had mentioned earlier on about the terroir. So talk to me a little bit about that, about how that helps make your product, you know, different than other whiskeys out there.
So, terroir refers to all of the elements and factors that come together in the growing of the ingredient that affects the flavor of that ingredient. And I mentioned earlier that we're known around the world for great grain, for bread and pasta and cookies and all those
Yeah.
types of things. But the reason that we have that is part of our location.
Mm-hmm.
The long days that we have in the summertime, like the sun will come up at 3:30 and it doesn't go to bed till 10:30. It's those
Wow.
long growing days. They're not hot, but they're,
Mm-hmm.
like we're in the Celsius, we're in the 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
and those cool nights that really concentrate the flavors in the grains.
Mm.
We also see it in our flowers that it really concentrates the colors. That our flowers are very vibrant in color and they're very showy and cheery and all the rest of that. But
Yeah.
it's those growing conditions that really uh, yes, it has something to do with the cell biology and everything else, and that's
Yeah.
way beyond my pay grade to explain
Yeah.
to you. And the
But you
good,
get to benefit from it. So,
right. And then on the whiskey side, what we do is, unlike everyone else in the world, we store our
hmm
whiskey outdoors. So it is exposed to temperatures from plus 40 to minus 40.
mm.
And we had an article in Forbes magazine that said we may be the only whiskey in the world that has weather as an ingredient.
Huh. I love that. That's amazing to think of. We had gone to France and went on a champagne tour. You go through the uh, you know, in a cave where it's all stored and it's very damp and dark and cold. And yeah, how interesting it would be though to be have the weather be a part of the experience in the aging
We
process.
say that our whiskey is under the watchful eyes of Jack Frost and Mother Nature. So,
To your two best employees.
yes. Oh, but Mother Nature can be a bit of a bag to work with. Ooh, she can be tough.
Yeah, a little fickle sometimes,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah.
uh, so you have all these components that you've pulled together. You have your story, the operations. You have you know the land, and now you are ready to go to market and sell this product. So what was that like when you're like, okay, now we need to get out there and let people know about us?
So the interesting part about that is, in producing alcohol, alcohol has lots and lots of barriers. As
Right.
in my own country of Canada, selling into my next province or state is what you would
hmm
consider it, is like selling into 13 different countries. And
hmm
everyone has their own regulations and their own rules, and you must jump through a lot of hoops to be into those markets. And originally we started that direction. We 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 are allowed to sell in our own province, which is good.
hmm
And then, so we were doing that. We were allowed to sell directly from our distillery, which is also sometimes in different states, different provinces don't allow that.
Yeah.
And so we started selling in our province, then we started selling into the neighboring one. And initially, we tried to do it retail shelves, as in
hmm
go to the liquor stores, get our product on the shelf. And it's really tough for people to understand your story and everything else when there's just a bottle on the shelf.
Right.
So it's very, very difficult to pass on why your product costs three times what the the next local product costs. And so
hmm
we looked at that and said, you know what? Where do they really appreciate quality? Where do they
hmm
appreciate the story? Where do they have an understanding of whiskey that we don't have to do all of the education about it?
Yeah.
And we settled on a couple of export markets, and that is
hmm
where we've decided that that is our location. Is we
Okay.
sell now in the UK, we sell in Germany, we sell in China, we sell in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Those are the
Wow.
places for our product.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I'm also wondering about shipping, like, in the United States, about shipping to within different states can be complex depending on the wine or liquor and the rule. Like you said, every state in the US has different
Yeah.
regulations. How is it in Canada with, can you do e-commerce from your website to have somebody buy your bottles from there or not?
Not legally,
uh-huh.
just so you know. So
Yeah.
there is things are changing quite rapidly here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, if you are not allowed to sell in a different province, you are not allowed to e-commerce into a different province
Mm-hmm.
either. They are
Yeah.
just adjusting those rules right now. It has been very interesting. So we have a prime minister and our premiers, which would be
Mm-hmm.
similar to your president and your governors. But what
Mm-hmm.
we actually had them physically here at the distillery. They came here for a dinner in the beginning of June. And this is the second time that the premiers, so the heads of the provinces, have been here. The first
Yeah.
time was in 2019. And that
Okay.
day, my husband made a barrel of whiskey, and they all
Mm-hmm.
signed the barrel. And we said that when that barrel reaches maturity, we will gift every one of the premiers a bottle from that barrel. And when they came this time, the whiskey was ready. We labeled
Oh,
it
nice.
Ductus Exemplo, which is leadership by example. And
Mm-hmm.
we gifted everyone that was here along with the prime minister. And we have also now made the commitment that every prime minister or premier going forward will get a bottle. So whenever there's a change of government, we will send a bottle. We figure it will last, this barrel of whiskey will last about 40 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, so everybody pause the podcast now, rewind it, and listen to what she just said, because that is the most brilliant marketing campaign that I have heard in a very long time. So amazing forethought on that. A 40-year campaign with the perfect target market. So Barb, well done on that. And I'm excited to hear how that helps as you
Yes,
go
good.
forward.
Oh, and if your listeners are interested, if anyone wants to purchase their very own cask of whiskey, their own barrel,
Yeah.
just give me a
Yeah.
call. I'm happy to help
Yeah.
you out.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll make sure that we have your contact information in the description below. Okay, so you also mentioned something a moment ago that I wanted to bring back to you. So you mentioned all these different countries: the UK, Abu Dhabi, Germany. How did you get into these international markets?
A lot of it is travel. Pardon me. So, how did we get into international markets? A lot of it was to travel to those markets.
Mm-hmm.
We do make use of the trade commissioners that are,
Mm-hmm.
it is a service that is offered by our government, that we have trade commissioners in these countries. And we are very fortunate in my province that we too have a trade agent that's dedicated to our provincial
Mm-hmm.
businesses. And so I lean heavily on them once I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the country. I also do an awful lot of door knocking all by myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I will stop at the Savoy in London, and I will stop at the
Yeah.
Goring, and I will stop at all of these wonderful hotels like the Four Seasons
Sure.
and such, and introduce myself and speak with the manager. And wheels
Mm-hmm.
turn slow. I think
Yeah.
if there's any advice that I have for anybody who's in this type of consumer packaged goods, is
Yeah.
you will not make a sale on that first trip. You're likely
Mm-hmm.
not going to make it on your second trip. Mark Ritson is a really well-known marketing guru
Mm-hmm.
in the area, and he talks about the 3-7-27 rule. He says it takes
Mm-hmm.
3 times for people to get to know your name, that you need to meet them
Mm-hmm.
3 times before they know your name, seven
Yeah.
times before they associate you and your business, and 27 times before you're top of mind. And it's like,
Wow.
just so you know, it's not going to happen in one or two. Like it
Yeah.
takes a
Wow.
long time.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, relationship building and trust building is so critical to long-term success. But you really are, paying into that process for a long time for those dividends.
Yes.
So yeah, that's great advice too. So when you go to like the Savoy in London, do you have a bottle with you, or are you going in and just having a conversation and telling them about the business?
Oh no, I carry bottles with me everywhere.
Yeah.
As in right now.
Yeah. Yes. Please show us the bottle.
There we go. So
Yeah. Beautiful.
it is quite funny because next business I get into is going to be feathers, because carrying whiskey bottles around does get to be pretty heavy.
That was my other thought was, yes, you're going to have to make sure that you're bringing, usually it's you need to leave room in your suitcase for what you bring
You
home,
know.
but you need to make sure you have all these alcohol carefully packaged for the way there.
So this one lovely gentleman offered to assist me as I was hauling my luggage up the stairs in the tube in London. And he
Yeah.
said, "What do you have in there?"
What's
He
in
goes,
here?
"How many clothes did you pack?" I went, "Not clothes, just whiskey."
Priorities.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't explain any further, so he just
Yeah.
left me going, "Wow."
He, I'm sure, left that and had a good think on it for the rest of the day. Who is that lady and what is she doing? All right, Barbara, I want to, as I ask all of our guests as we wrap up our time together, this question, and it's, what has been your recipe to revenue?
I knew this question was coming, and I'm not sure I'm entirely prepared yet. I would say that we are still finding it out. And our
Mm-hmm.
distillery's been open for 10 years now. So this is a
Mm-hmm.
process. And we're still refining and refining where we want to place our whiskey. So our recipe to success has been having a very good product. So if you have a very good product and you're very adamant about quality control, and it's so tempting when you're young, or like when your business is young and you're
Yeah.
starting out and you've got a bottle that's not quite right, but you're going, man, that revenue, I can't give it up. You have to. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
build your reputation, and maybe that is the recipe to revenue, is you have to build that reputation. And whether it's, people call it brand awareness, whatever, if you want to call it your brand or your reputation, but people have to be able to know what that stands for. If you stand for the lowest price, that I'm going to, no matter what I do, I'm going to give you great value, that's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. Then do that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's consistency when you're building your reputation. If that's what you're aiming for, make sure you do that every time, every single time, with
Yeah.
and in every single way, every touch point. Is it every communication, every time a customer comes to your business, every time they see your product, it all has to have that same messaging. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
so many businesses that they have one product, but they've got like 5 different colors of it. And you're going, what were you thinking? Like, was it the cheapest
Yeah.
thing that day? And
Yeah.
how do was that the cheapest box you could get and it didn't matter to you? Those things are important. Like even our branding on the case, the cardboard box that goes to the wholesaler is very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh gosh, so recipe to success, you need a lot of things. It's not just one thing. Let's start with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it's consistency. It's knowing where you want to go. Um, it is pivoting if you must. We realized quite well, I won't say quick enough, that
Mm-hmm.
being on the retail shelf wasn't where we could tell our story. So
Yes.
then we pivoted to where we want our product to be positioned. And that's been much better for us. And
Yeah.
it's kind of been fun too. We get to do, we've got some events with the Four Seasons in Abu Dhabi, and we've got something coming up in Hong Kong later in the year. Like it's fun.
That sounds like fun. No, that's great, and it taps into a different level of creativity than the objective of getting on a shelf, right? Like
Right.
when you're doing that sort of partnership marketing or event marketing, it's experiential,
Hmm.
so it adds much more to it. Well, Barb, thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a great conversation. So many good nuggets of tips in here that I know that our listeners will learn from and appreciate. Let us know where, if people want to find out more about the brand or to get in touch with you, what's the best place?
Oh, come visit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Yeah, say that one 5 times real fast. But Blackfox Farm and Distillery.com, because we didn't have a long enough name. So,
At least there's probably not too many other people out there with a similar name, right? So that's it.
sure.
Another market differentiator. Thank you so much, Barb. We will talk to you again soon and see how the journey continues.
The pleasure was all mine.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.